I was almost to graduate from college, in fact, and Johnson was getting ready to call up the reserves in 1965, and I went, holy cow, I'm going to go to Vietnam as a ground pounder, an E-4 rifleman. So I found out that I could get out of the reserves if I got into the officers program. I had a wife and a daughter, and another went on the way. So I calculated out if I went into the Marine Corps in the officers program, and then I went to flight school, with my time and grade be at the top of the pay grade all along, I would make $10,000 my first year. Plus, they're going to teach me how to fly an airplane. So that was pretty good. And by the way, the Vietnam thing will be over by 2.5 years when I get my wings, so I don't have to worry about that. Well, that didn't prove to be true, did it? I was assigned to Camp Pendleton HML 267, and that's where we transitioned from into the Huey helicopter, the gunships. And that was going to be my assignment when I went to Vietnam. So I spent 6 months training to go to in the Huey, and then went on to Vietnam right after that. This is a picture of my daughter pinning my wings on, and they actually published this in the paper. It was kind of unique to have a 5-year-old pinning the wings on the aviator, and so that's been a special moment, getting those wings. And so it really has been something that I've really been attached to. I got my wings in October of '68, and in March of '69 I was in Vietnam. Vietnam is a absolutely beautiful country. I mean, from the ocean, the beaches, the turquoise, the white sand, and then you go inland and you got flat lands, and you get into start to get into the jungle area, and then you got actually the mountain yards were farming in terraces on the mountainside. A typical day, we'd get up 6, 7 o'clock or whatever, and we'd report for our assignment for the day. And we'd go out and we'd fly for sometimes 8 hours, 9 hours, and then come back and then do it again the next day. One special day in Vietnam is June the 17th, and we got called out early in the morning before daybreak to go support a Marine company that had been surrounded, and their position was being overrun. So we got there right at daybreak, and we laid down a lot. We had 4 aircraft, 2 flights of Hueys, 4 aircraft altogether, and we laid down a lot of fire. We drove the enemy back, and we got them out in the open, and we were picking them off. I mean, it was like shooting ducks in a barrel, and we rescued that company. They were about to be overrun, and they gave us credit. The ground forces gave us credit for 61 NVA that we were able to eliminate. We were nominated for a Distinguished Flying Cross for our action that morning. It got downgraded to a single mission air medal. So that means you get 1 air medal instead of having to fly 20 missions. You get 1 for flying 1. It was that dangerous. So that was a very exciting start to that day. And then lo and behold, in the afternoon, about 1 o'clock, we get another call. Similar situation. We got a bunch of NVA. We're located up right near the DMZ where we were stationed, Quang Tri. So, you know, they easy to get across into South Vietnam. Now we got another situation, very similar. And we drove off those guys and got rescued these folks again. And this time we were put in for Silver Star, and it got downgraded to a DFC. So that's a pretty busy day's work in one day. You do grow fond of what they're capable of doing, and We had a gunship has 4 machine guns pointing forward, and then 1 in each door, and then we have a rocket pod on each side. So we are very heavily armed, and when we have a full load of ammo and fuel, we can just barely get off the ground. I enjoyed the helicopter, its maneuverability, the sounds. To this day, I hear a helicopter coming by and I recognize a Huey over every other helicopter. I mean, you know, it just has a distinctive sound. This is the one that I flew in Vietnam, and so it's parked in the revetments, which are metal walls to protect the aircraft in case there's an attack. The shrapnel doesn't spread, and so there I am with a pistol strapped on, and I got my machine guns and the whole thing there. And so that's a special picture. And I was the co-pilot, and the lead pilot in our flight had a tail rotor failure. Now, a tail rotor failure is one of the worst emergency situations you can have in a Huey. He was coming in for the skid-on landing, and all of a sudden, civilians appeared in the road where he was going to do this. And he had to wave off, and he ended up crashing and hitting the ground going like a mix master. I mean, you know, it's dirt and motors and blades and stuff every which direction. And so we were the wingmen, and I was a co-pilot, and so the pilot, Greg Steele, he goes, we got to get in there and help those guys, get them out of there. We're in a hostile zone, and you know, and plus they may be injured. So he comes in, and adrenaline is flying and pumping, and he comes in and he makes a pancake landing, spreads the skids, chin bubble pops, and I know that this airplane is going to catch on fire. I reach over and undo my lap strap. I said, I got to get out of this aircraft. And there's a little emergency pin down here. So I reach over and grab that thing, and it breaks right in my hand. I'm going, oh my, I think it's definitely not a good sign. And so I reached back like this and kicked the door right at the hinges and broke those cast aluminum hinges off the door. The door fell off, but I had so much adrenaline going, and it was one of those superhuman efforts. You couldn't do that in 100 years if you're just sitting there trying to do it. And so I got away from the aircraft. It never did catch on fire, but for a few moments there, I knew I was going to be a goner. This friend of mine who was in another squadron in Da Nang, I'm in Quang Tri, but he is just about ready to go back to the States. And you're not allowed to fly the last 30 days of your tour and duty because they don't want you surviving 12 months and then in the last 30 days you get shot down. So he was assigned to as a test pilot, and he took up the aircraft, he and the crew, and they went out and were testing it, and the engine quit out over the water, and they sounded Mayday, Mayday, going down, and they ditched the aircraft, and they were able to swim away from the aircraft. The first aircraft on the scene to try and help them was a big Sikorsky Army helicopter. They came down and lowered a line and came down to try and lift one of these guys out, or one or two of them. And the downwash from the rotor forced 3 of them under, and they drowned in a rescue attempt. Yeah. And my buddy was one of the ones that didn't make it. He had less than 30 days to go, second tour in Vietnam, and for the wrong reasons, he didn't make it. I realized that when your number is up, it's up. Go out and do your mission. You don't go back and refuel when you're half empty. You don't fly at 2,000 feet. You get down to 800 feet where you can do your mission. And so those are, it got me through Vietnam because I was able to do my mission and not worry about, oh boy, I gotta be extra safe here and not take any risks and blah, blah, blah. When you go fly 20 combat missions, you would get one air medal. And so at the end of your tour, I was there flying for about 8 months. I had 26 air medals, which is 500 missions, combat missions, which is flying into a hot zone, taking fire, returning fire. So a lot of flight time, a lot of exposure. Then I got assigned to the Korean Marines as an air liaison officer, a forward air controller, which meant I'm living on the ground with the grunts and going out in the field. They would identify enemy, and we'd go out in the field and do search and destroy missions. And you know, we had a lot of times stepping on mines, and it was real combat. And our job as Marines who were attached, I had 14 enlisted guys working with me, and our job was to control the aircraft going in and out to help support the Korean Marines. Airlifts, resupply, medevacs, air attacks. So it was probably as exciting or more exciting than flying the Huey and shooting up people. Many, many times I recall being down on the ground and calling in air support, Huey Cobras, to come and put fire down on these guys 100 yards away. And believe me, that's pretty impressive when you're on the receiving end of that Huey Cobra or a Huey gunship. It is really eye-opening. Just the noise and the limbs on the trees and the crap that's falling around you, you're going, wow, that's a pretty powerful piece of equipment. I remember one time where a guy said, hey, can I bring you anything, or can I get something for you? I says, yeah, next time you come, could you get me a case of beer? I couldn't get that with the Korean Marines. So he put a case of beer behind him in the Huey Cobra behind him, and he landed and dropped off a case of beer to me. I was with the Korean Marines, and a helicopter came in and dropped off a load of supplies or whatever, and the downwash from his rotors blinded him and he ended up crashing the helicopter, tipping it over. Wasn't shot down, he just tipped it over. Well, I know that helicopters catch on fire very quickly, and so I want to rush out there and see if I can help pull the crew out, make sure we get these guys out of there. And I didn't think I was in any danger until I got out there to the aircraft, and I'm pulling these guys out, and all of a sudden the ammunition starts cooking off. Bullets, tracers are going every direction. I mean, I could have got hit by my own ammo, a stray bullet, just trying to do a little rescue attempt. So, yeah, that was a pretty harrowing experience. When we came back from Vietnam, we were not treated very well. It was a terrible reception for coming home for most people. I experienced a few negative things, but I was still proud to wear my uniform and my flight jacket, and I didn't mind letting people know that I was a Vietnam vet, and I was damn glad to be home. And that we fought, and we fought that Vietnam War for things that we believed in. And I think that I would like my grandkids and so on to respect that, and to respect and support the people who are in the military, because they are protecting your way of life, and they have no clue at a very young age what that means. So that's kind of what I would like to pass on to my grandkids and others also.
I don't know if there's anybody here today who doesn't thrill to the sound of those blades. That familiar whop, whop, whop is the soundtrack of our war, the lullaby of our younger days. To someone who spent his time in Nam with the grunts, I've got to tell you that noise was always a great comfort. It meant someone was coming to help. Someone was coming to get our wounded. Someone was coming to bring us water and ammo. Someone was coming to take our dead brothers home. And eventually, someone was coming to give us a ride out of hell. Even today, when I hear it, I stop, catch my breath, and think back to those days. I love you guys as only an infantryman can. No matter how bad things were, if we called, you came. Down through the green tracers and other visible signs of a real bad day, off to a real bad start. To us, you seemed beyond brave and fearless, that you would come to us in the middle of battle in those flimsy, thin-skinned crates, and in the storm of fire, you would sit up there behind that thin plexiglass, seeming so patient and so calm and so vulnerable, waiting for the offloading and the onloading. We thought you were God's own lunatics, and we loved you. Still do. We're the fortunate ones. We survived when so many better men gave up their precious lives for us. We owe them a sacred debt to live each day to its fullest. What they're saying when you listen hard enough is this: we're at peace, and so should you be, and so should you be.